My parents broke into my cabin with about 20 relatives to celebrate the 4th of July. I only found out when my mom called me in a panic after they accidentally set part of the place on fire. Hey, Reddit. I spent years working non-stop and saving to buy this cabin. I didn't even tell my family I owned it. Somehow, they found out anyway and showed up on July 4th with a large group of relatives without asking me first. What happened next was a complete disaster. So yes, buckle up. This gets complicated. My name's Hugo. I'm 30, single, and apparently the family disappointment because I drive a truck instead of sitting behind a desk. My older sister, Caroline, had her MBA fully paid for by our parents. My younger sister, Diana, had her wedding covered, plus a down payment on her starter home. I got a card that said, "We're proud of you." When I earned my CDL, I did the math one day. Between the two of them, my parents spent around $180,000 on education, weddings, cars, and financial help. I got a $50 Applebee's gift card for my 25th birthday. So I started saving. From every paycheck, 45% went straight into an account my family didn't know about. I lived on truck stop meals and whatever I could heat in a microwave. I wore the same 3 pairs of jeans until they fell apart. I took routes no one wanted because they paid more. Christmas bonuses, tax refunds, every extra dollar went into that account. For years, my family treated me like the backup option, the one who was always available because what else was I doing? I helped them move. I provided free labor whenever they needed it. I wasn't invited to important events, only the ones that involved heavy lifting. Caroline's wedding cost $40,000. Full catering, destination venue, and a photographer who made more per hour than I earned in a day. I wasn't part of the wedding party. I helped set up chairs the day before. Diana's wedding cost another $35,000. I helped move gifts afterward. Neither offered gas money. When Caroline bought her first house, Dad handed her $30,000 for the down payment. When I asked if anything was saved for me, Mom said, "Well, honey, you're so independent. You don't really need help, do you?" Christmas was always rough. Caroline got designer handbags and jewelry. Diana got cash and high-value gift cards. I usually received a sweater from Target and maybe a truck stop gift card. Now, about the cabin. I found it in Montana last November. 20 acres outside Whitefish. An old timber frame place from 1978. It needed work, but the structure was solid. 3 bedrooms, a stone fireplace, and a creek running through the back. The owner was a widow selling because she couldn't maintain it anymore. Her husband had built most of it himself and passed away 2 years earlier. She wanted it to go to someone who would respect it. The asking price was $195,000. The cabin needed updates. The kitchen appliances were from the 1980s. Some deck boards were rotting. The plumbing worked but needed attention. But the frame was strong. Hand-cut beams, stone foundation, and a roof that only needed some shingles replaced. I could see the potential. I offered $185,000 cash, closing in 3 weeks. The widow thought I was joking. She said no one pays cash anymore. I showed her my bank statement. She started crying and said her husband would have liked me, that I reminded her of him. Hard-working, practical, someone who valued building things properly. She accepted the offer. I used my friend Ray as my real estate contact. Ray was in his mid-40s, a former truck driver who got into real estate after a back injury ended his driving career. He understood the lifestyle. He handled the paperwork while I was hauling to Portland. I signed everything from my phone at a truck stop in Wyoming. I wired the money at 2 a.m. in a Pilot parking lot while eating a microwave burrito. My account dropped from $197,000 to $12,000 in one transaction. We closed on December 18th. I drove straight there after my last delivery. I arrived around midnight in a snowstorm, walked into my own cabin with a duffel bag and some energy drinks, and slept on the floor in a sleeping bag. I didn't have furniture yet. The next morning, sunlight came through the windows, and I looked out over my own 20 acres. No one telling me what to do. I told exactly 2 people. Ray, because he helped with the purchase, and Tommy, my dispatcher, because he needed to know where to send my paperwork. Tommy was a former military guy who ran dispatch tightly and fairly. Both of them understood why I kept it quiet. They'd met my family once and saw how my mom spent 20 minutes talking about Caroline's promotion without asking me a single question about my life. Over the next 7 months, I fixed the place up between halls, new roof, plumbing repairs, replaced deck boards. I did most of the work myself and hired local contractors when needed. I paid cash and kept quiet. My plan was to tell my parents at Christmas, bring just them first. Let them see what I built without their help. Show them that the disappointment son actually had his life together. Maybe hear a genuine, "We're proud of you." That plan collapsed on July 9th. I was about 3 hours outside Bozeman hauling construction equipment when my mom called. I answered because when she calls midweek, it usually means someone died. "Hugo, thank God, we need you right now." Her voice had that familiar panic, the tone she used when she messed something up and expected me to fix it. "What happened?" "There was a fire at your cabin. We're all here. There was an accident with the grill. Part of the deck caught fire, and the kitchen has smoke damage." "What are you doing at my cabin?" Silence. "Your cabin, honey. Caroline found the address in your mail when we were at your apartment last month getting old furniture. We thought it was sweet you bought a family vacation place and didn't tell us because you wanted it to be a surprise. So we planned a big family reunion. You broke into my property." "We didn't break in. Your dad called a locksmith. We've been here since Thursday celebrating. Uncle Paul was grilling. The propane tank leaked." I hung up. I pulled over at high speed, hands shaking so badly I nearly hit the guardrail. I called Tommy and told him I needed emergency time off. When I explained what happened, he paused and said, "Take all the time you need. And Hugo, get a lawyer." It took 4 hours to reach the cabin. I broke every speed limit between Bozeman and Whitefish. My mind raced, calculating damage and replaying my mom's words. How casually she said, "your cabin," like this was normal. I had to stop twice just to calm myself down. The second time, I sat in a rest area and looked at photos of the cabin from when I first bought it. I reminded myself why I worked so hard for it. I arrived around 7 p.m. 7 vehicles were parked outside. Mom's SUV, Dad's truck, Caroline's sedan, Diana's SUV, Uncle Paul's RV, Aunt Nayan's van, another cousin's car. About 20 people total. Kids were running around with sparklers. Music played through a Bluetooth speaker. The air smelled like smoke and charcoal. The deck I rebuilt myself was blackened and warped. The kitchen window was blown out. Smoke stains climbed the wall. Tents were set up in my yard. Coolers, trash, and empty cans were everywhere. A banner hung between 2 trees, Havel Family Reunion 2024. I parked and got out. Everyone stared at me like I was interrupting their event. Mom rushed over, eyes red. "Hugo, we're so sorry. Get off my property." She froze. Dad stepped in with the calm voice he used when he wanted to minimize things. "Son, it was an accident. We'll help pay." "You broke into my house." "We didn't break in. We hired a locksmith. You should have told us. This is the perfect family place." I looked around. "You drilled my lock. No one asked permission." I walked inside. Music and voices echoed through my home. Caroline came out holding a drink and told me to calm down. She said insurance would cover it and accused me of being dramatic. Inside, the damage was clear. Smoke-covered walls, burned cabinets I had painted myself, broken glass everywhere, a discharged fire extinguisher, spoiled food, furniture moved, wet towels, muddy footprints, my bedroom and bathroom trashed. I walked back outside and told them all to leave or I'd call the police. Diana laughed and said I wouldn't call the cops on family. Uncle Paul accused me of being possessive. I asked one question. Did anyone ask me? No one answered. They said I was rude and ruining family time. I told them they were trespassing and caused serious damage. Then, I pulled out my phone and started documenting everything. The fire damage, broken windows, trash, and destruction. While they stood there watch, I recorded video of the interior damage, the toys left in my bedroom, the clogged toilet, the fire extinguisher foam residue, all of it. "Hugo, what are you doing?" my mom asked, her voice shaking. "You'll see." Then I called 911. The sheriff's deputy who arrived was named Dobrinsky, mid-40s, looked worn down. I met him at the edge of the property before my family surrounded him. "Are you Hugo Havel?" "Yes, I own this property. Those people entered without my permission, hired a locksmith to break my locks, and caused fire damage." He looked past me at my family standing near the burned deck. "That your family?" "Unfortunately." He gave a slight nod. "All right, let's start with the basics." He asked a few questions. Did I own the property? Yes. Did they have permission to be there? No. I never told them I bought it. I never invited them. They found the address by going through my mail and decided to throw a party. Dobrinsky nodded and took out his notepad. "Okay, I'll take statements." He spoke to my parents first, then my sisters, then my uncle. It took about 40 minutes while I stood near my truck, continuing to document damage on my phone. I also photographed their portable grill, the one that caused the fire, and the propane tank with a damaged valve. When Dobrinsky returned, he said, "Your family claims they believed you wanted them here. They say your sister finding the address was interpreted as an invitation. Breaking into someone's house isn't an invitation." "I agree," he said. "Here's the situation. Some of this falls under civil property damage. However, trespassing and breaking and entering can be criminal if you want to pursue charges. That decision is yours." "I do." He studied me for a moment. "You're sure? This is your family." "They destroyed my property and never asked permission." "All right." He went back to my family and spoke with them. My mom started crying harder. My sisters looked furious. My dad's face turned deep red. Dobrinsky returned. "I've informed them they must leave immediately and that you'll be filing a formal report. I've documented the scene. You'll need to come to the station tomorrow to give an official statement. I'm also calling the fire marshal to document the fire damage." "What about repairs?" "That's civil. Document everything, get estimates, and speak to a lawyer if you plan to pursue damages." "I am." He handed me his card. "Come by tomorrow morning." Over the next hour, my family packed up their vehicles. My mom kept trying to approach me, but I walked away each time. My dad looked like he wanted to take a swing, but thought better of it with a deputy present. Caroline made sure I heard her tell Diana that I was dead to her. The kids cried because they had to leave. Uncle Paul muttered about betrayal. Aunt Nayan looked at me like I'd done something cruel. By 10 p.m., they were gone. Dobrinsky and the fire marshal left last after documenting the deck and kitchen damage. When the property was finally quiet, I walked through my cabin alone. The place I'd saved for over 11 years. The property I'd repaired with my own hands. Damaged because my family believed they were entitled to whatever I owned. I called Ray around midnight. I need a lawyer, a good one. He asked what happened. I explained everything. He went quiet, then said, I know a guy, property litigation specialist. Not cheap, but very effective. Want his number? Yeah. Ray, I have to ask, do you think suing family is too far? They broke into your house and burned it. What would you do? I'd sue them without hesitation. I'll text you his info. I spent the night in my truck. I couldn't sleep in the cabin with the smoke smell everywhere and the damage staring back at me. I sat in the sleeper cab, looking out at the property, making a list on my phone of everything that needed repair. The list reached 2 full pages. I slept maybe 2 hours total. Morning came cold and gray. I made instant coffee on my portable burner and sat on the tailgate watching the sunrise over the damaged property. Ray called around 7 a.m. I met with the lawyer Monday morning. His name was Frank, about 60 years old. Looked like someone who'd been winning court cases for decades. I laid everything out. Documents, photos, videos, police report, fire marshal's report, repair estimates for the kitchen, deck, smoke remediation, repainting, broken windows, damaged furniture, lost supplies, new locks, a security system, and lost wages from missed work. Total, $45,400. Frank reviewed everything carefully, making notes. Finally, he set the papers down. This is straightforward. Trespassing, property damage, and breaking and entering via locksmith. The fire marshal confirmed the propane leak. You have documentation, police reports, and proof of ownership. They don't have a real defense. How long will this take? If they fight it, 6 months to a year. If they settle, maybe 3 months. But you should know, they'll likely try to make your life difficult. I'm ready. He smiled. All right, let's proceed. The lawsuit was filed Wednesday. Frank sent certified letters to the defendants, Arthur, Eleanor, and Caroline. Diana wasn't named since she didn't organize it, but she would find out quickly. My phone started ringing Thursday morning. I ignored the first 10 calls. That night, I listened to the voicemails while parked at a rest stop in Idaho. Mom begged me to stop and handle it as a family. Dad said I was destroying everyone over an accident. Caroline accused me of being selfish and said I'd never be welcome again. I ignored all of it. Tommy called later. How are you holding up? I filed the lawsuit. Good. They earned it. I've got some long-haul runs coming up. Good pay. Might help keep your mind busy. Send them over. You did the right thing. I got back on the road the next week. Tommy assigned premium routes with better pay. Being on the highway helped. Just me, the truck, and distance from the damage. Frank sent updates every few days. The defendants hired a lawyer and claimed it was a misunderstanding, that they tried to contact me, that they thought I'd be happy. Frank had my phone records showing no calls until after the fire. Repairs started in early August. I had to hire contractors and took out a $25,000 loan to cover immediate costs. Insurance was limited, since I hadn't finalized full coverage yet. My mistake, and one I wouldn't repeat. Every dollar spent strengthened my resolve to continue. My family began a public smear campaign. Ray told me Caroline claimed I invited them and then sued for money. Diana posted emotional messages online about toxic relatives who valued money over relationships. My mom played the victim at church. My dad told his version at the Veterans Hall, until someone asked why they didn't ask permission. That ended the conversation quickly. Caroline even started a crowdfunding campaign that was taken down for being misleading. She blamed me for that too. I didn't respond. Frank's advice was simple: document everything and stay silent. Public statements could become evidence. September brought depositions. I answered questions calmly and directly. I stated the facts. They entered without permission, hired a locksmith, and caused $45,000 in damage. I wanted full compensation plus legal fees. The defense tried to paint me as vindictive. Frank objected repeatedly. Most objections were sustained. Later, Frank told me my parents' depositions didn't go well. Arthur admitted they never asked permission. Eleanor admitted they found the address by going through my mail. Caroline admitted she organized the event and hired the locksmith. In October, Frank called. They want to settle. For how much? Full damages plus legal fees, $52,000. Take it. Smart move. I also recommend filing restraining orders against all three. Do it. The settlement finalized in November. The wire transfer hit my account on a Wednesday morning while I was hauling a load through Nebraska. I paid off the repair loan immediately and covered Frank's legal fees. That left me with $16,600. I put half toward the security system upgrade I'd already planned and saved the rest. The setup included cameras, motion sensors, and an alarm system connected directly to my phone and the sheriff's department. Frank helped me file for a protection order against all three defendants. A week later, the judge approved it. It was a 3-year order against Arthur, Eleanor, and Caroline. They couldn't contact me or come within 500 feet of me or my property. Any violation meant arrest, not just a fine. I never heard from them directly again. The restraining order made sure of that. I did hear updates through Ray, passed along by mutual connections. They were struggling. The settlement had wiped out their savings. Arthur and Eleanor had to refinance their house to cover it. Caroline and her husband were constantly fighting about money. Diana was angry that our parents could no longer help with childcare costs. Good. The cabin repairs were finished in early December, right as the first heavy snow arrived. The work took 4 months, but the place looked better than before. The deck was rebuilt with proper railings and composite boards that wouldn't burn. The kitchen was upgraded with commercial-grade appliances, stainless steel finishes, and a ventilation hood that actually worked. The walls were repainted in the same colors I originally chose. The settlement covered the repair loan and more, giving me financial breathing room I hadn't had in months. I upgraded to granite countertops and installed a dishwasher for the first time. I figured I'd earned that. I also added a gas range. The cabinets were custom-built by a local craftsman Pete recommended. The quality was better than what I'd done myself, though I painted them the same color. I started spending my days off there again. I moved furniture up from my apartment and replaced everything they had damaged. I installed the security system myself, with Pete's help. Pete was a local contractor I'd met during the repairs. and we'd become friends. We installed 8 cameras covering every angle of the property and added motion-activated lights around the perimeter. The full system cost about $8,000, but the settlement allowed me to do it properly. No one was getting in again without me knowing. Tommy came up just before Christmas and helped move the last big items: couch, bed frame, and a new refrigerator. We stood on the deck in the cold, drinks in hand, looking out at the snow-covered property. "I can't believe they tried to take this from you," he said. "Tried and failed. I heard through the grapevine that my dad had taken on side work to cover the settlement. Good. He could work for once instead of writing checks for my sisters." Ray came up for New Year's. We built a fire in the outdoor pit I'd constructed away from the cabin. We had a few drinks. He raised his can and said, "To owning your own peace." I'll drink to that. Through various connections, I learned the family fallout was getting worse. Arthur and Eleanor refinanced their house at a terrible rate after losing their savings. Their retirement fund was gone. They canceled their anniversary cruise and dropped their country club membership. Caroline and her husband officially separated in January. Money was part of it, but he was also furious that she'd organized the cabin incident and dragged him into it. She moved back in with our parents, sleeping in her childhood bedroom at 34, angry and posting passive-aggressive quotes online. Diana's social media shifted from polished lifestyle posts to bitter messages about betrayal and financial stress. Her husband was furious that my parents couldn't help with their second child, as promised. They'd counted on free childcare and now couldn't afford daycare. The strain in their marriage became obvious. Uncle Paul blamed my parents for pulling him into the mess. Aunt Nain was still upset about having to pay legal fees. A cousin started a rumor that I was secretly wealthy and wanted to bankrupt the family for fun. Caroline told people I was cruel, vindictive, and cared more about money than relationships. I let her talk. I had my cabin, my savings rebuilt, and my life back on track. She had debt, a failed marriage, and was living with our parents. Different priorities. I focused on building the life I actually wanted. I met more locals through Pete, regular people who didn't care about family drama or expect favors. He introduced me to his crew, construction guys who understood that sometimes you just need space that's yours. We worked on projects together when I was off the road, built a proper shed with a solid foundation over 3 weekends, expanded the deck so it wrapped partway around the cabin, installed a generator backup system that could run the place for a week if power went out. Pete knew an electrician who gave me a fair price and did clean, code-compliant work. Pete taught me better carpentry techniques, crown molding, clean mitered corners. I helped him with side jobs when I could and put the extra money back into cabin improvements. Pete understood it completely. Sometimes you just need a place that belongs to you. No explanations, no obligations. March brought early signs of spring. The snow melted, the creek ran high, and everything felt alive again. I took a full week off work and did nothing productive. Read books, cooked real meals, grilled steaks, made fresh coffee, and watched the sunrise over the mountains. I fished the creek and caught a few trout. Nothing big, but enough to eat. I pan-fried them with butter and garlic and ate them while watching the sunset. It felt earned. Everything did. I thought about where I'd been a year earlier. The invasion, the fire, the lawsuit. I felt good about every decision I'd made. No family pressure, no obligations, just the life I'd built and protected. 5 months after the settlement, on a Tuesday afternoon in late April, I was staining the deck, when a car pulled into the driveway. The gate was open for a lumber delivery. I recognized it immediately. Diana's white SUV. The security system alerted me before she reached the halfway point. I checked the camera feed. She was alone, no kids, and looked worn down. I set the brush aside and met her at the top of the drive. "Hugo, can we talk?" "You need to leave." "Please, 5 minutes. I drove 3 hours. I need help." "There's a restraining order against Mom, Dad, and Caroline. You're not included, but you're still trespassing. I'm asking once. Leave." She started crying, real tears. She said my parents couldn't help anymore. Caroline blamed her. Her marriage was falling apart. Medical bills were crushing them, and the house payment was 3 months behind. She asked for $20,000 and promised to pay it back. "You should have thought about that before invading my property." "That wasn't my fault. I didn't organize it. You knew. All of you did. You assumed you could take what I built because that's how it's always been." She apologized and begged. I told her her kids needed parents who took responsibility instead of expecting bailouts. I reminded her how I lived, saving every dollar, working routes no one wanted, sacrificing to build something real. Her expression shifted from desperate to angry. She accused me of letting my niece and nephew suffer. "I'm letting you solve your problems the way I had to solve mine." I told her to leave. One last warning. Then I'd call the sheriff. She stood there shaking. Said I wasn't the brother she knew. "You never knew me. You knew the version that was useful." I started counting. She left at 15 seconds, nearly running to her SUV. I pulled up Deputy Dobrinsky's number where she could see it. She drove off fast, gravel flying. The gate closed behind her. I went back to staining the deck. It needed 3 coats. It had to be done right. "Good," he said. "Some people need consequences." We worked until sunset, building something solid. When we finished, we sat on the deck with sodas, watching the light fade over the mountains. "This place is worth protecting," Pete said. "It is." That night, the cabin was quiet. Just the creek, the wind through the trees, and the new deck settling. My phone buzzed. A text from Tommy. "Got a premium route next week. Portland to Boston. Great pay." I replied, "I'm in." I slept better that night than I had in years. Life was good. I had my peace. I had my property. And I knew I'd made the right choices. That was enough. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel and allows us to bring you more great stories.